Travel can be a great way to uncover your heritage. Go to Grandma Kathy Buckworth is here with more on her ancestry travel. And you did this a while back with your kids.
I did. I did this about 4 or 5 years ago with my 2 youngest kids. We went back to England, where my parents immigrated from, to Canterbury, where my dad's side of the family is from. And it was really cool to take them back to a place where I had gone as a kid to visit my grandparents and to show them, to literally walk in their footsteps. And now ancestry travel is a real thing. People are really looking to find out where their ancestors lived, how they lived, where they're from. And so, but it can be daunting to, where do I start if I literally don't know anything about my family's background, which is the case for a lot of people. So the best place to start is really getting that DNA test done. If you really don't know what your family history is, or you've got, do I have some Indian in my background? Do I have some, Chinese? Like, you don't know, right? So to find out really where your family is from. And once you found that out, it becomes easier to trace the records of where you're from. And all the references I'm going to make now can be found in an article I wrote about this on journeywoman.com. So don't get your pencils out. You can look it up there.
Yes. We'll get that link up on the website when we
that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, for women, it's particularly hard because, of course, surnames are often changed.
Yes.
So tracing your maternal side can be a lot more of a challenge than chasing your paternal side. And in fact, in England, where my family is from, it wasn't until 2021 that the mothers' names were listed on marriage certificates. It was only the fathers of the couple getting married. So you didn't ever see them. Yeah, so you never saw the mother's name till 2021 in it. Now in Canada, we've been putting that on since the late 1800s. And I talked at length to a woman from the Family History Centre in Ireland, because 70 million people across the world claim to be of Irish heritage. It's one of the biggest ones.
Okay, I have 18% Irish in
so
my
you're
DNA
one of those
test.
people.
Yes.
So there you go. And they work with genealogists working there, obviously, to trace your family tree. But if you're looking to start it on your own and you're from Canada, find out first of all where your family's from.
Okay.
When did they come to Canada? Ask all of your relatives, older ones, to start filling in some of the layers of the family tree. And if you really can't do that, Library and Archives Canada is a free site that has all kinds of census information. The thing that is captured normally is marriage, birth, death, right?
Yeah.
So you can find those things through those records. Provincial archives, also super helpful, actually. Each province has, these are all free services. And the Pier 21 Canadian Immigration Museum are records for those who arrived by sea. So if you know that's the way your relatives arrived, you can do that.
I found out my grandfather and grandmother on my dad's side. I found out, and what ages they were, and what they, my grandmother was a domestic help.
It's so,
at the age of 14.
And that's the fascinating part, is finding out what they did, not just where they're from. And these are the things you can find out if you trace. So my granddad was the mayor of Canterbury, but also the town butcher.
Oh,
I'm so fancy. Are you impressed? And we've always known that. It wasn't something we discovered recently.
Yeah.
But going back to Canterbury, of course, the records are, I went to look up what years he was, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the records go back to the 1400s. They've had mayors there. No, he wasn't mayor then. But it's super fascinating to find that stuff out and for your kids to share that. So to take them along on a trip like that, I think, is fascinating.
Yes.
And when we talk about taking our grandkids, it extends that family history. My husband's side of the family has a big, they're really strong Canadian family back into Quebec. And so my kids and grandkids now go back to Tadoussac in Quebec, which is where his side of the family is from. And that's appropriate, it's fun, etc. But if you find that your relatives have been through distressing times, through times of war, through times of whatever, you want to think about the age that the kids are before you maybe are taking them through a concentration camp, or taking them, to a place where buildings were bombed and perhaps they perished. So you want to think about how much history can they really take in when you take them back to show them their past. But it's super important to document those things too. So even us, as we're sitting here, we should be documenting all of what we know about our family so we can pass it on to our kids and grandkids.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do that.
The easiest way to do that. And really think about, you might have a history where you say you're 18%, so you've got another big percentage of other places.
Yes, yeah.
Determine what you think is the most important part of your background to share as well with your grandkids, because you might be having to visit 6 or 7 countries in your case.
Well,
right?
we were on a river cruise, and we were going through these on the Danube, and we're going through all these vineyards and stuff that had like family names and places and stuff, and I'm like, I see my name. There's my last name, Hom, on the
It's right.
in a vineyard, right?
And it's kind of cool. And I remember as a kid going back to England, and we went to the small village of Buckworth, which was so cool. And we all took pictures next to it and everything, in the parish of Buckworth. So those kinds of things, I think, are really connect your kids to the past, and more so in a way of telling stories around the table, which are super important also, but actually physically getting them there.
And I love that so many of these resources are free, so that you can find out more about your. Okay, we'll get that up on our website then, chch.com/morninglive.